to Marty, why has she been in that office so long with that cute guy? And Marty was like, I don't know what she's doing. And then we had grilled cheese sandwiches and visited. And so I want to introduce you to Emmett Schenkel, who is an award-winning speaker, anti-bullying expert, nationally recognized poet laureate, author of Invisible Reflections. Has that been released yet, Emmett?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, working on that. Welcome to the stage, Emmett Schenkel.
Hello, friends. Distinguished guests, faculty, graduates, family, and friends, thank you for allowing me to share this beautiful moment with you this evening. I love inspiring young people. As a speaker, I travel throughout the community, nonprofit organizations, as well as governmental organizations. And you always ask me the same two questions. It's almost like clockwork. First question to ask, because everywhere I go, people want to know, what happened to your arm? The second question that I get frequently from my 5- and 6-year-old friends, are you a preacher? Can't make this up, folks. So recently, a lady asked me the same question. She said, Mr. Schenkel, you speak so eloquently at church, and I've seen you speak at schools. Are you a pastor? Now, before I could answer her, she persisted. Maybe you're a deacon or a bishop. Listen, we have a youth conference next month, and we would love to hear your powerful testimony. Now, for those that do not know, I was raised to be a Southern gentleman from the piney woods of East Texas. With that being said, my natural response followed like this. Now, before you hear this, please, don't judge me. God bless you, sister. How may I serve thee? That interaction reminded me of a quote from Mark Twain. And he said, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education. Now, this condition is called Erb's palsy. It is characterized by traumatic damage to the brachial plexus nerve center. Now, what that means in layman's terms is that it rests by my side with a limited range of motion. Now, after I was born, my family skipped that whole Kodak moment where the mother holds the baby for the first time. After my birth, a team of doctors called my folks into a room to tell them what had happened. It was something similar to this. Mr. and Mrs. Schenkel, we are sorry. Your son has experienced a very traumatic childbirth. Honestly, we do not know how he is still living. We attempted to activate his respiratory system to no avail. Currently, your son is in an incubator on 100% oxygen. Statistically, it's going to take a miracle for your son to survive through the night. And let me just say this. If he does survive, unfortunately, there is a strong probability that he will be mentally challenged. Due to the lack of oxygen to his brain and some other factors, he may be delayed. These cognitive deficits will be difficult for him to overcome. Teachers will have to spend extra time with him because he can't learn like other students. His brain functioning is different. It's not the same. So after hearing this, my parents did what most parents do. They cried. They cried some more, and then they began to pray. Shortly after, my mother asked one of the doctors, she said, "Can I see my baby? I want to talk to him. I want to hold him and tell him that I love him." So the doctor agreed to that. My mother told me the story of how she slid her left hand and her right hand into these black rubber sleeves and held me as close as she could with a barrier of glass between us. She said that she looked down upon my face and she said, "Mama loves you so much, baby. Baby, you got to make it. You got to be strong." She said that in that moment she prayed to God. She said, "Lord, if my life pleases you, then take my life. But please let my son live. Bless him with a full life to serve you, Lord." God heard my mother's prayer. And I stand before you this evening a walking, talking, living, breathing miracle. And I am not ashamed, nor am I afraid to give him glory. Graduates, walk tall. Never forget where you come from, and make us proud. Know the difference between sight and vision. Let me give you a quote from Taylor Swift's cousin, Jonathan Swift. Okay, that's probably not true. I'm sorry. Mr. Taylor Swift, author of Gulliver's Travels, said, "Vision is the art of seeing what is invisible to others." What this means to me is God can give vision to a blind man who has never seen a sunset, nor has he read the pages from a book. But he can see clearly now the purpose for his life. I was once blind, but now I see. This is how I transitioned from seeing myself to seeing God's plan for me. See, y'all thought God's plan was just a song by Drake. No. There I was on stage with thousands of people waiting for me to say something. One problem. This soon-to-be world champion of poetry was just a shy young man from a small town in East Texas who was a long way away from home. I was not used to groups of strangers huddling around me asking for my autograph. This happened to me moments before I took the stage. I signed the last one and they made their way off to their seats, and the names were called for the top 20 poets from around the world. Before my name was called, I sat there in the seat thinking and reflecting. I had a fire burning inside of me, and I was not going to just read that poem. I was going to roar that poem from the stage. At least that was my plan. When my name was called, I went up steps and I turned the corner, and that fire turned into a fizzle. That roar turned into a whisper. When I turned the corner, I saw one lone microphone with a bright white light shining down on it. And then all of a sudden, I felt something all too familiar. I felt the fear of stage fright. You see, what you don't know is yesterday I stood behind a nice podium like this, and I gave my poem to 50 people. No problem. The day before that, I was in another room, and I set it down in front of a lectern just like this one, and it was in 30 people. Boys and girls, there are going to be some moments in your life that you cannot prepare for. That day, God took the training wheels off. You see, he told me that I was ready, and I was not ready to hear that I was ready. I performed my poem, and the worst thing that could ever happen happened to me. No, they didn't boo me off stage. I didn't fumble or forget anything. It was dead silence. No one clapped. There were no babies crying. I mean, nothing. Immediately, I attacked myself. Oh man, it was that bad. Jesus. I bombed in front of all these people. I knew it. You know what? I will never speak in public again, and writing poetry, I'm so done with this. And then I thought for a second, maybe they don't know I'm actually finished with my poem. So I leaned to this microphone that was so expensive they could hear the very breath I was breathing. And I said, thank you. All of a sudden, as I looked into a sea of people from around the world, a record-breaking crowd of 20,000 people gave me my first standing ovation. And on each of their faces, I could see a small tear streaming down. Suddenly the host put his hand on my shoulder and handed me a check for $10,000. I did not share this to impress you. I shared this to impress upon you that you will never know how great you can become unless you consistently challenge yourself. I close with this poem by Edgar Allan Guest called Equipment. As I read this poem, students, I want you to remember what my mother said to me that night. I want you to be strong, and more importantly, never let anyone tell you you can't learn. Equipment by Edgar A. Guest. Figure it out for yourself, my lad. You have all that the greatest of men have had. 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and a brain to use, if you would be wise. With this equipment, they all began. Start for the top and say, I can. Look them over, the wise and the great. They take their food from a common plate. And similar knives and forks they use. With similar laces they tie their shoes. The world considers them brave and smart. But you have all they had when they made their start. You can triumph and come to skill. You can be great if only you will. You are well equipped for the fight you choose. You have legs and arms and a brain to use. And the man who has risen to great deeds to do began his life with no more than you. You are the handicap you must face. You are the one who must choose your place. You must say where you want to go, how much you will study the truth to know. God has equipped you for life, but He lets you decide what you want to be. Courage must come from the soul within. The man must furnish the will to win. So figure it out for yourself, my lad. You were born with all the great has ever had. With your equipment, they all began. Get a hold of yourself and say, I can. God bless you tonight. Thank you so much.